All right, so let's do a there we go. You should now hear me now. So we're just going to do a quick sound and quality. You should be able to hear me now. There's like a small little delay on the stream, but as soon as you are there, now the sound is working. There we go. So we're going to do a bit of a sound quality test before we go ahead and do anything. So on my screen, it's telling me that the sound is working. There is a slight lag when it comes to hearing it on you guys. Okay, you can hear me now. Fantastic. So first thing I need to do before we jump into all of this stuff over here is we need to do a sound test. So it's great that you can hear me, but in the previous one, the previous live stream we did, the sound sounded like it was really high and then low. Does it feel consistent to you? And if it feels consistent, like, does it come across consistent? It's not like pitching high, pitching low. It's coming through nice and clearly. All right. Great. Love it. Thank you for the feedback. That is good to hear. All righty. So we've got a fair amount of people that have joined us at the moment. You know, share this with everybody that you feel would want to tune into this conversation today. And consistent? Yes. Okay. I love it when I'm looking at the chat. Like, I'll say something and then 30 seconds later, everybody will start responding to what I've said. So there's a small little lag that's taking place over here. But nonetheless, it's happening. I suspect when I do some Q&A, it will be different. Okay. Again, for those of you that are tuning into this live stream event after the fact, of course, there's going to be a slight sort of buffer moment where we're just here in this looking into the chart. So you can fast forward to that time. I'm sure somebody will probably put a timestamp on the video. I intend to probably edit this piece out anyway. So if you're catching this live stream, awesome. But I'm going to be putting these videos independently on the channel as well, so you can catch them there. All right, so I'm just going to do some quick little quality control. I'm checking the stream to see the health. Excellent connection. I love it. YouTube seems to be doing that. And hopefully there will be... Thank you, Saturn and Pisces. Cool. Nice. Click here when your live stream in view counts. Okay, sweet. I like it. The program I'm using at the moment just got a recent upgrade. And there are some cool little nifty features that are present for me here, which I'm really glad to be seeing coming on. So this is the topic of conversation today. Virgo's helping you out. I have a love-hate relationship with that comment. Here we go. Let me help you out in a nice kind of like, I'm just being of service to you kind of way, right? Thank you, Virgo. I appreciate you. Other times it's like, look, I'm helping you out here, but it feels as if you, you just, at some point we've been Virgoed once, right? Where we just have that moment of, So I suppose you can emotionally connect to what I'm referring to there. So let me just bounce quickly to something. I want to test something with us, okay? $35 insulin now available. All right. Okay, so sweet. It's all good. And the sound's good. We've got a group of people that are hanging out with us, and you're not doing it right. that is Virgo to the T, right? Which today I'm actually going to I'm going to plan to kind of have a conversation around. Actually, I just want to look at my notes here. I wrote some notes quickly for this live stream. I just want them up. Where is it? New full moon. There we go. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to put that to the screen there. Let's see how this works. I'm really, really enjoying this program that I have that allows me to stream at the moment. It's so effortless, and it gives me so much space to have some of my notes that I've written down prepared for this, as well as check everybody on the chat. It's a nice little organization. That's where my Virgo's enjoying the screen, having everything just where I need them. Okay, yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to talk about. Loss of innocence. All right, well, let's jam. Let's dive into today's conversation. We're going to be talking about the full moon in Virgo that just recently happened, and of course the big thing we're going to be talking about. Lots of astrologers have been talking about. It's right in front of us right now. Saturn is leaving Aquarius, and it's going to be moving into Pisces, right? And just like with all of these planetary transits in different signs, we are like 5 months old, 6 months old, 10-month-old babies. We're super excited by something new that's just coming into our field, right? Like, I'm so tired of talking about Saturn and Aquarius. Let's talk about something new and fresh. So that's, I'm sure, very appealing to most of you, is to kind of really tune into my perspective, at least, on Saturn transit through Pisces. Just a kind of side note, because we're on a live stream and be more real with you. I've been in different states emotionally regarding how I want to share my thoughts and views on Saturn and Pisces, and there was a space that I was at where I was kind of thinking to myself that I need to make an announcement about how you may experience me talk about Saturn and Pisces, which may sound a little bit sort of like negative, or in a sense not necessarily as glamorized as what you may have seen. And so it's still part of it, but I'll talk about this when I get into Saturn and Pisces. But to me, I feel like I need to be super real with this transit, so that we're not kind of projecting our ideals onto planetary systems and then perceiving the way that the transit's working as opposed to the actual effect of it, right? These planetary systems, Saturn in Pisces, Uranus in Aries, Uranus in Taurus, Uranus in Gemini, these they don't actually bend to our ideals. they don't cater to our needs in that sense. These planetary systems move through these signs, and they bring up to our consciousness the things that are actually there for us as a collective race, and individually as well. And a lot of the times that can be very disturbing to the ego, right? We like our comforts, but when we have difficult transits take place, or the shadow sides of signs materialize in our psyche, it's often we don't want to hear about that. So I feel like, for me, in terms of what I consider to be a service to the community who follow me, I need to be real with what I sense, feel, I've observed about these transits. So that's something that I've been kind of contemplating. How would I want to address? How do I want to bring the Saturn and Pisces to you, so that you can integrate it within yourself, and also prepare yourself for this transit. And so that's the kind of space I'm at. Another thing that I want to add, by the way, and this is one of the reasons why I'm excited for this live stream. I really am. I've got a lot to say, as I always do, and but I want to preface with this first, by the way, just before we jump into this full moon in Virgo. This full moon in Virgo landed exactly on my Mars and Venus. So the moon, 16 degrees of Virgo, both my Mars and Venus are exactly 16 degrees. They're 1 minute apart. So, and then for those of you that follow evolutionary astrology, this Mars and Venus energy squares my nodes, right? It forms 90-degree aspects to my south and north node, which is where Mars has been transiting on my north node. And last year, September, when there was the new moon in Virgo, I started to, I was at the point now, right then, where Mars was at. So I hope you're following me. Mars has now come to the same place it was for me when I decided to change up my content. I felt that, for me, in terms of my solar return chart, I have Neptune, Jupiter right at the midheaven. and it's sort of making an aspect to Mars on my ascendant. This is my solar return chart for 2022 to 2023. And what has emerged for me is a desire to deeply help those that are interested understand the psychic process with regards to these planetary archetypes. So what does it mean to actually understand yourself as a soul, and that you have this psyche that you carry with you that has these stories in it, and that these planetary archetypes represent stories that we live, and they can help us process complexes, right? Experiences that we've had in our lives that are reflecting the soul's journey. This is a kind of deep thing, right? There's the soul. The soul has this journey that you call it your life. And along the road that you experience this life, you have stories that you live, right? And depending on which, configurations in your natal chart, you're going to live certain stories. And a lot of the times we are faffing around on the surface when it comes to understanding our astrology. Whereas I have a deep, deep desire to want to help us empower ourselves through the astrology chart by bringing agency to it, right? What does it mean to somatically experience the systems? How do you not just intellectualize Virgo, but what does it actually feel like to realize you're living a Virgo story? So when the new moon took place in Virgo, this kind of shift took place, and I started, creating some content that I felt was a way of conveying through story, through imagery, and not just kind of talking in this way. But at some point, it was taking up way too much time to produce, to write the content as well as to edit. It was taking up way too much time, and I wasn't being efficient, essentially. And the irony of this whole situation is, on this full moon that's taking place, so an entire 6-month lunar cycle, I feel like I've landed at some really profound clarity, which is what I'm sharing with you right now. So going forward, the way that I feel like I'm going to deliver some content is kind of finding a balance between this type of way of dialoguing with you, but also trying to bring this unique perspective. Well, it's not unique, but this perspective to you who are interested in experiencing the astrology somatically, as well as really understanding what it means to have agency when it comes to these signs. Like, you have Mars in Aries. Like, all we do mostly is relate to our Aries experiences based on information we've been handed to. We've got this like database of information that we've collected. But what does it mean from the point of view of the soul? Like, why would the soul choose to have Mars in Aries for you in this lifetime? How do you live that? How do you embody that archetype? How do you take up whatever that symbol is trying to say to you as a facilitating, or to facilitate your soul's desire? Like, that's the conversation that I'm trying to have here. So I feel like I've come to a place where I have a lot of clarity around how to serve you, as well as how to meet that need in me to express the astrology in a way that, brings more agency to not only myself, but you as well. So that's where I'm at the moment. And I'm really excited for that. So that's my little 2 cents spiel, taking up space. So let's jump into this full moon in Virgo. So I'm going to go ahead and put the slide up. Okie dokie. All right, so the kind of tagline that comes along with this full moon is chaos and confusion. And there's a few images that I've kind of played with over here, but this one really captures the essence of how I perceive and see this full moon, chaos and confusion. So if you look at the current chart at the moment, which if I get up right now, it should be available on your screen. You should see there that I've pointed, there's 2 arrows on the 9 o'clock position, and then one at the 11 and the other one at the 6, right? Mars in Gemini, Pluto at 29 degrees Capricorn, boatload of planets in Pisces, and then you have this stellium of Venus, Chiron, and Jupiter all sitting in Aries, okay? So you can see there that there's a lot of energy that's in Pisces that is going to be entering there too. And then, of course, you've got this Aries stellium at the stellium. And so this word, or this image here of sort of chaos and confusion, is associated both within the Aries archetype and within the Pisces archetype, okay? And I'm going to break this down to even deeper in terms of Saturn through Pisces. But the chaos piece reflects both energy moving into Pisces, where the ocean represents the totality of life itself, right? The uncertainty, the unpredictability of events and circumstances. Emotionally, for us, we are learning with Pisces energy to deal with the fact that the world is bigger than ourselves, and that it's wildly unpredictable. There is no certainty. There is no certainty in terms of how things are moving forward. There's no certainty in terms of what the next couple of weeks could be like. Suddenly something can change and it can alter our world. And we deal with not only existential experiences, like we live on a planet that's in a solar system that's part of something so gigantic that to even comprehend that just completely disassociates you, right? Measuring the Earth's distance to the sun, I mean, that's wild. Most of us just travel between two places, and that is enormous. Get on an airplane and watch from the window the landscape, right, as it leaves an airport, and you could see the enormity of the landscape, and yet when you're kind of on the ground, it just feels like you're so small in that process. So this chaos element speaks to both the Aries energy as well as the Pisces, and I'll break this down for us, as well as confusion, okay, disorientation. And yet there is a parallel here. There has to be with Mars and Gemini, right? The parallel is actually there's quite a lot of clarity, and I actually feel pretty chilled. Like that's a binary, like that's where people are as well, right? It just depends on which side of the spectrum you're on. Okay, so if we look at the chart over here, right, what's really significant is Pluto at 29 degrees, okay? Since 2008, this Pluto transit has been essentially exposing everything that has become archaic in Capricorn. So the easiest way to understand Capricorn is to realize that in order for your body to stand up, you need to have a skeleton, right? So if you take the skeleton out the person's body, what happens next? Right? So Capricorn is a structure that holds things, that binds things, okay? So Pluto moving through Capricorn is essentially saying to us as a collective, I'm going to show you where everything that has become rusted, outdated, no longer works, this structure's no supporting anymore, this has become outdated, I'm going to expose all of that. And while that's happening, I'm also going to tell you that you guys need to figure out how to emotionally learn to deal with chaos, emotionally learn to deal with uncertainty, learn to deal with emotional disruption, right? And so many of you sitting over here at some point has gone through some form of deep inner emotional work. 29-degree Capricorn is the realization of that entire transit. So in 2008, we had a huge collapse regarding, financial structure. And now we're sitting at 29 degrees, and it's very apparent. We know we live in a world where there's a lot of messed up things. We know we live in a world where there's incredible polarization. We know we live in a world where human beings, struggle to emotionally regulate themselves, right? There's a lot of fracturing. There's a lot of stuff that's bad. But there's a lot of people who have experienced complete and utter psychological and emotional transformation to the point where they feel free from the bindedness that is associated with these old structures. So there's this kind of duality of complete chaos with Pluto through Capricorn in people's lives, but also this fundamental huge transformation emotionally that people have gone through, and it's been tough. Like, just acknowledge that it's been tough. Capricorn is not an energy that gives us freebies and says, hey, congratulations, I see that you need that self-validation there for a moment. Now, you have to do that for yourself, as it consistently keeps putting on more struggles for you to deal with in order for you to handle reality, essentially. Okay, so Saturn, this Neptune Sun contact that's sitting there in Pisces, right? We know that we know that Pisces has been with us also since 2010, right? Neptune's been transiting through Pisces, and we've seen how the world has radically changed from the perspective of what it was meaningful. You know, in 2009, 2008, people who said they were going to be a YouTuber were laughed at, right? And now, today, the world is a different place. You can do so many friggin' amazing things with your imagination, with your creativity. There are also massive shadow sides that have come with this process. But on a whole, you can see that a lot has changed within our world. These symbols, this Pluto Neptune contact, because they're outer planets and they move through signs very slowly, they deeply impact the way that we as a world understand reality. And I'll get into this later in terms of Saturn's transit through Pisces, because what Saturn will essentially do is support the completion phase of Saturn, so of Pluto through Capricorn, and it will also activate the core intention of Neptune through Pisces, which is, it depends on which side of the coin you're on. But this can either be fundamentally scary as anything, or it can be incredibly sobering, right? There's a very strong movement in the world at the moment of people healing their bodies, right? Coming back into their bodies and healing addictions and healing things that they would use to suppress pain and suffering. Right? This is a powerful potential that has been actualized with these outer planets. So if I bring this more into the kind of context of the world that we're living in at the moment, these symbols that you're looking at in the screen right now, right, with these outer planets, Pluto and Neptune, and of course the Sun, Mercury here in Pisces, they reflect a culmination. Like, we're at the 29th degree of a sign. The Pisces energy is literally implying this is where we come to have these deep, meaningful conversations about things in our lives, and we try to reconcile that which has been turbulent for us. We try to reconcile experiences that we've gone through in our lives. There's a deep reconciliation that is being initiated with Pluto at 29 degrees, eventually going into Aquarius in just under 20 days, not even 20 days, like 15 days, right? 16 days, Pluto's going to enter Aquarius. And that Pluto changing sign correlates to the Aries stuff. But you know, throughout 2023, Pluto will dip into Aquarius and then go back into Capricorn. And that's why we have this kind of 1 degree Aquarius, 29 degrees Capricorn. We have these two binaries here, right? Aries and Pisces. We're culminating something, we're ready to move on for something, but we're not quite there yet, right? Something wants to be born, but something needs to be finished up. And all this new moon, this full moon in Virgo is done, is it's helped facilitate, I mean, many things, but it's helped facilitate things like, you know, reconciliation around experiences in our lives that have been very difficult for us to deal with. Like, right now, the human experience is tragic, not in the sense that there aren't magical things, not in the sense that we can live in pretty profound, prosperous times, but there are, outside of our own immediate kind of experience of something that's comfortable and amazing and actualized, there is actually quite a lot of crisis in the world, right? Virgo brings us into context. It brings us into the realization that the human experience can be difficult, that there are tremendous challenges that we come along with, right? Virgo speaks to the loss of innocence. See, in the Pisces archetype, and I'm going to break this down in the Saturn talk, this new and full moon is an activation agent for Saturn entering Pisces. This is ushering it in. It's like, hey, get prepared for Saturn entering Pisces. And I think Saturn will be in Pisces by the time this conversation's ended. So we are moving towards a time of dealing with Pisces realities. And the Aries energy over here is saying, while we're dealing with these Pisces energies, there's this potential for something new to emerge out of it. So confusion oftentimes and shock oftentimes are what we deal with when something sudden has happened, when something has collapsed, something has ended. And it's like, what is the direction that we can trust? How do we navigate? How do we deal with situations or circumstances when we are engulfed in something very overwhelming? So an example could be like the earthquake that took place in Turkey and Iran, right? I mean, a lot of people after that are sitting around going, what now? So a lot of people right now are stepping into something completely new with this Aries energy, right? This new phase, Jupiter, Venus energy is present with us. And it's like there's an opportunity for something new to come out of experiences. And this is what I'll touch on. There's a duality here. Mars and Gemini tells us that there's two stories that are running parallel with each other. There's a story that says, hey, are you ready to jump into something that has become your dream? Right? What is your dream? What do you dream about? Do you want to put this in reality? Well, what's the direction? So that's what I said right in the beginning of this conversation. I said, I needed to get clear on my intention. I needed to get clear on the direction that I'm going with. And when I can have that clarity, it doesn't feel like I'm confused. It doesn't feel like I'm in chaos. It feels like I can make decisions and move forward with experiences, and I can integrate. Now that Virgo moon at 16 degrees says, what is the relationship that you want to have to yourself? And then what is the relationship you then want to tell people about? So again, each of us has this possibility and this potential with this energy to ask questions that help you get clarity. And that may require deeper inner reflection. What's the goal? What's the intention? What do you want to do? Where am I going? So it's paving a new road, right? There's this potential for something new to come from these experiences, right? This is the Jupiter and Chiron and Venus energy. But Aries energy in our lives, you got to, and this is what I meant earlier about, I'm actually going to come back to the camera so that I can talk to you guys. There we go. Hello. Aries, when you embody Aries energy, you will always have a symbol that you are seeking to conquer. With all the fire signs, right? Sagittarius will be a new land, a new language, a new philosophy, a new subject to learn, right? And so then we separate from our center being and we search for something. We go on an adventure. So all the fire signs, Leo is the part of us that, seeks to fulfill something within our lives, like a destiny. And so let's say the destiny is to become an actor. Well, the acting is the symbolic representation of that destiny, right? And then we go and seek for it. But it's it's looking for something outside of ourselves. And so the same thing for Aries. The question you want to ask yourself with this Aries energy right now is, what if there's a new direction that's available for me here, and I'm going to start a quest to go and get it, right? What is the quest? What's the quest that you're on? If you look at your life and you say to yourself, I want to start my own podcast. Well, the podcast is the symbol of the quest. Now your Aries is going to go and pursue that thing, right? And as you pursue that thing, you go on an adventure. That's the Aries archetype. But along that venture, you may come across experiences like, well, I have no idea how to do a podcast. I might need to go and talk to somebody about it or read something, or which day should I have this on? Or what's the topic? What's the niche? Like each of us has something percolating within our conscious at the moment that feels something new. And what you want to do is focus on what's the quest? What's the object that you are seeking to obtain? That's how you dial into that Aries energy at the moment. And the Pisces energy at the moment is something to do with, it's like a binary, okay? It's a duality. The Pisces energy seeks to, you want to identify with the ideal or the dream, right? And this will come back to what I was talking about earlier about, being real with Saturn through Pisces. A lot of us will actually come to some profound states of disillusionment. We will go like, this has absolutely no meaning for me anymore. And it can come on slowly, or it can come on rapidly. And it's just that moment of, wow, this is no longer, I don't have that ideal anymore. And so that's what this, there's another dimension to this over here. There's reflect back on yourself and observe, try to identify the ideal that drives your inspiration, that drives your delusion, that drives your imagination. If you can get really anchored into that symbolic representation of the ideal and you get that imagery there, that Aries energy is going to give you like fuel. Now, that's one side of it. The other side of it is, you know, other parts of the world in which everything's very tense. It feels chaotic. It feels confusing. It feels the world is unstable. It may not necessarily feel that in this moment right now for one of us or a couple of us, but for a lot of people, the world feels it's on the brink of something completely, you know, there will be in a continuation of people realizing that where they've given energy to things will no longer have that same symbolic ideal. So this full moon over here in Virgo, it does many things. It helps you question what the direction is that you wish to put your energy to. What are you seeking? What's the ideal that drives behind it? And the Virgo wants you to go, how do I take a step-by-step process and actualize this? So again, there's a binary, right? There's many ways to interpret the astrology depending on what level of information you're seeking. So at a collective level, this Virgo energy will provide us with a lot of collective grief. And this is what I'll talk about, loss of innocence later, but collective grief. Individually, it may also bring you that sense of grief, that anxiety of experiences that have been emotionally tough. But then on the other side, in terms of self-actualization and actually feeling like you're working on yourself, healing your body, cleaning out toxicity, allowing yourself to become more aligned with a healthier version of yourself, which means healing through your emotional complex and dealing with traumas and stuff so that your addiction levels recede and you find more possibility or potential in your life. So this Virgo can support an integration phase. So when it comes to Virgo, we can tend to get lost in the details with Virgo because we get overwhelmed by how we need to be having it accurate. This is the irony of Virgo here. So this is a piece that I want to throw in. I want you to consider in your life how much procrastination you have. A lot of people associate procrastination with Libra. And in many ways, that's the case. But Virgo contributes a great deal to procrastination because if you procrastinate, you are not actually taking action. When you're not taking any action, you're then also avoiding any form of crisis that may come from that choice. So what we're ultimately avoiding is the emotional, is the emotion of crisis, the emotional conflict, the emotion of getting it wrong or what if. So Virgo in a more kind of like paralyzing state is thinking of all of the possible outcomes 300 steps ahead, and then never actually looking at the most immediate thing that's right in front of you right now and says, okay, we'll start with this. So my conclusion here with this full moon energy is ask yourself questions like, what is the quest I seek to go on? What is the symbol of the quest? Right? And like I said, it can range from, I want my relationships to be better. I want to be a better person in relationships. And so my quest is to heal whatever dynamics I feel I contribute to bringing relationship chaos into relationships. I want to succeed at this new job. So the question that you want to ask yourself is, what is the symbol that helps you? What is the vehicle, right? That's the key here. What is the vehicle? What's the new thing that's emerging in your life? When you get really clear on that, and then you look to the ideal, as in this Pisces energy, and you ask this question, like, what is the symbol of meaning that is associated or attached to it? Then the Virgo comes in and says, start here. Right? That's the inconjunct between the new moon in Virgo and Venus in Aries. The inconjunct between the two is Venus says, hey, I value these new things, and I want to implement them in the world. Virgo comes along and says, yeah, that's cool. The moment you step in to do something new, realize you may be actually in uncharted territory. So you're comfortable with being uncomfortable. Don't give up though. So that's kind of the story here. The message with this process is, for those of you that are stepping into something new, for those of you that are feeling a new emergent reality right now, allow yourself the space to grow into this new experience. Do not get paralyzed by all of the things that you think could possibly go wrong just because you're afraid of life. Start here, right? Okay. So let's go into this over here, Saturn through Pisces. I'm really excited for this conversation. So let's see. Let me see my slides over here. Okay. So I think I'm going to do this first. So when the time is fulfilled, everything's in Pisces, a new orientation will irresistibly break through. Okay. See it? When the time is fulfilled, Saturn entering Pisces, Sun in Pisces, all of the energies in Pisces at the moment. When time is fulfilled, something is completed, something's come to the end, right? A new orientation will irresistibly break through. This is Jung. He's writing a letter to Victor White. And this irresistible breakthrough, the thing that's going to irresistibly break through, is Aries. It wants to permeate it. Something new wants to be born. Something new is trying to be born here. And our experience of that new birthing process can feel like complete absence of meaning and purpose and loss of faith and a complete disorientation. And it's like, oh my God. Or to others, it can look like a complete liberation from past dynamics that you've worked hard to clear out with Pluto and Capricorn, and it's now time to fly. Either way, it completely sets up Pluto in Aquarius, and it completely sets up Saturn's entrance into Pisces. So the question is, what's coming through, what's trying to break through, and what has become fulfilled? All right. So Saturn enters Pisces on the 7th of March, which is today, on this new moon. And the thing that I just love about astrology is that, you know, you watch the timing of these events and you're like, come on. You know, it's like, when are you ever going to prove me wrong? When is it going to be that it just makes no sense whatsoever? I've yet to find that moment where I see the synchronicity of events and just be like, yeah, you know, maybe that's just the thing when you're into this type of way of looking at reality and looking at these cycles, that it almost you can see the synchronicity and maybe it's completely, you know, not clear to other people. But anyway, it's here. So Saturn entering Pisces. So let's go back to the camera because I feel like I want to make sure that you don't forget that I exist. All right. So again, I just want to, before we get into this conversation today, there are going to be parts of this conversation that may not be comfortable to hear, right? It's like, oh, right? Why do we have to have it this way? Why does it have to play out this way? It may be completely okay. I don't know. But the intention here is that I don't want to give you some magical ideal about Saturn through Pisces. I think that this transit through Pisces is probably one of the most impactful transits that we're going to experience for a very, very long time, because of the nature of the effect that this transit is going to do for us as a civilization. And it's going to reverberate. Pluto through Capricorn, squaring Uranus and Aries was a big deal. We're still living in the echoes of that transit. I mean, we don't live in the same world anymore. There's wildly different things that have come up in our lives. But this transit over here is going to very much shape things for us in a way that, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It's just, to me, this transit is not just a, hey, Saturn's going through Aries, Saturn's going through Pisces, or Saturn's going through Virgo. This is a very significant transit or planetary activation, because it speaks to the closure of Pluto through Capricorn, and it also speaks to the purpose that Neptune has had in Pisces. So it's activating these outer planetary transits, which I said at the beginning of this conversation, that has changed the landscape of our globe radically. Okay, we've gone through a lot. We don't live in the same world, and that could be said for somebody that's living in the 1950s that looks back to the 1910s. So in one way, it's not as dramatic because we always go through these radical shifts and changes, and it's just how life is. But on another level, living through the experience, that's a completely different story. So that's where I'm at the moment. So let's get into some of the slides for us. Okay. So what you can do, I encourage you to do this, is obviously look at the Saturn transit in your chart. Right? Go and get your astrology chart and notice where Saturn will be transiting for this next year, 2 years. Right? What house is it going to be landing? And if you want to make real sense of Saturn's transit through Pisces, look to the house that it's in. So let's say it's in the 4th house, right? Study your moon in your chart, right? Your moon is obviously going to have, to me, as an astrologer, evolutionary astrologer, the moon is going to play a significant role in how Saturn will be transforming you. So look to where Saturn is in your chart. And if it's whatever house that's in, so if it's in the 1st house, I'd encourage you to look at Mars. If it's in the 2nd house, I encourage you to look at Venus. 3rd house, Gemini. 4th house, Moon. 5th house, Sun. 6th house, Mercury. Sorry, not the 3rd house, Gemini. 3rd house, Mercury. 7th house, look at it. Look at it at Venus again in your relationships. Look at, if it's in your 8th house, look at your Pluto. Look at dynamics around changing, letting go of things, something transformational. If it's in your 9th house, look at Jupiter. 10th house, Saturn's going to be there. It's its own sign. If it's in your 11th, look at Uranus. If it's in your 12th, look at Neptune. There are going to be some deep correlations over there. And of course, it's not as straightforward as, okay, that's the answer, but that's a way to start looking at your chart to making connections. You're going to live the Saturn through Pisces story. Okay. This one's deep. I don't know if I'm going to be able to capture the entirety of this transit in this transmission, but I'm going to try. I encourage you to come back and watch this thing over and over because there's going to be a lot that I'm going to present to you that, probably will be overwhelming in many ways, but in another way, it's good to come back and utilize this. And again, like I said, I'll be putting this in the YouTube channel as a separate video. So Saturn entering Pisces. Let's go ahead and have a look at this transit. Okay. So step 1, right? This image here, time. To me, this image captures the archetype of Saturn and the archetype of Pisces in such a poetic way. It's like it symbolizes the core essence of these archetypes. Okay, so I'm going to try and break this down in a way that inspires you to see something deeper, that opens up dimensions of reality within you. Okay, so as you can see, there's 2 parts of this image, right? You can see on the left-hand side, there's a very small leaf. It's bright and colorful in the sense that it's green, and you see I've got "you are here." And then right on the other side, there's this leaf that has lived its life. It's culminated. It's now died off, and you can see that it's brown, right, indicating the end of its life. And you can see I've written there "you are here." Now this is my kind of like Mars and Gemini joke, where it's like a polarity. How can you be at both places at once? We are. You can't. We are at both places at once. That's what Gemini does. It tells us that 2 things can be true at the same time and also wrong at the same time. There's a parallel, right? There's always a paradox. There's always 2 things happening at the same time and nothing happening at the same time. It's like it's just hilarious. And so this image here of "you are here" and "you are here" is absolutely true. And so for those of you that are kind of following along at the moment, guess which energy encapsulates the young leaf, and which energy encapsulates the leaf that has run its course. Like which if you just look at the astrology chart that we're currently we looked at the full moon of Virgo, the planets, where is it? Right? Which one's which here? So if you kind of answered with all of the Aries energy representing the you are here with the young leaf, then that's correct. And all of the Pisces planets with Saturn in Pisces and you are here, that's what that represents. In time right now, there is both the culmination and ending of cycles, and there is also the emergence of something new. That was Jung's conversation here. When the time is fulfilled, right? Something has lived. It's become fulfilled. A new orientation will irresistibly break through. That's the fundamental essence of life. You are literally looking at the fundamental essence of life, at the core of our genome, the core of our biology, the core of the material world. Things start, they have some point, there is excitement, there's some journey, there's a life to be lived. It's colorful, it's vibrant, and then it reaches a senescent point in which that process is filled with wisdom, but it's also ready to move on. This is the cycle of life. And at a deepest level, if you see Saturn's transit through Pisces as a process of facilitating and actualizing this truth, you get it. You will see it. That's why I'm saying it's deep. You will see the stream of life age. You will see the aged world. You will see things age. You will see conversations have aged. You will see things have aged. And there will be deep wisdom that will materialize and permeate out of these aged experiences because we've lived it. But at the same time, there will be something irresistibly new that wants to come out of it. There's a fresh energy that wants to burst through and say, please, something new. So this is the core. To me, this is the core of Saturn through Pisces. It's awakening to this principle of life and the realization of it. Saturn makes things real by telling us where the gravity is. Saturn reflects time. We always perceive Saturn as this archetype that tells us how to grow into the world, and that is true. But we're missing the essence of the archetype. It's actually an archetype of deep inner reflection that shows us what we have done. But we're looking ahead and we're saying, where are we going? But Saturn says, look where you have come from. And then when you see Saturn and you reverse it the other way around, you actually see the story that you've lived. You see the decisions you've made. And when you reflect on those decisions, you actually course correct. And then automatically, simultaneously, you both reflect on what you wish to course correct and make a new decision, giving you the direction. So when you look back, you're actually moving forward in alignment with your truth, because reflection awakens something deeply real within you. It gives you time to say, that's what I like, that's what I didn't like. This is what I feel I can do better. This is what I feel I need to leave. You understand? I no longer want to be in relationships where I fawn because I'm, creating codependency and then getting angry and whatever of the sort because I'm, losing my identity. And so when I look back at that, maybe I can do some trauma work to heal parts of myself that have been disassociated. That's an example of this. So at a collective level, we will see a new emergent energy materialize. It will take on the form, whatever the planets are, but you will also see the decay. Right? So Saturn shows us the coloring of these leaves and the container of these leaves, and Neptune in this image here shows us where life is present and vital and where life has evaded, has left. Okay, so this is the core guiding principle of this process. So let's see if that's the next one. Okay, so the first thing that I want to bring into this conversation over here is this image. So for those of you that have done the 2023 Year Ahead workshop with me, you'll know what I mean by this. This image over here, like, does this image feel clear, grounded? Does it feel to you that it is calm, that there is something that you can have, that you can engage with, and it could feel like, you know what, I'm pretty safe, right? this image over here, the image of overwhelm, will become deeply apparent with Saturn through Pisces. Again, there's a binary that will take place. Some of us will experience it in some ways, others will experience it in more intense ways. The world will, in some ways, experience this. But Saturn, the Pisces archetype, one side of the binary of Pisces archetype is this enormous creature, this enormous event, this enormous situation that scales in mega structure. An earthquake is the Pisces archetype. There is no, you don't get to interact with the earthquake and say, by the powers given to me by, whoever, I'm going to now stop this earthquake with my hand. That's nuts. So we will experience and go through a pattern within our lives, individually and collectively. The symbol of overwhelm will be with us. We will experience things come into our lives more progressively that will feel as if we don't have a choice. Right? This speaks deeply to the core logic of Pisces, surrender. So the image of overwhelm, I want you to take in as it can be a symbolic, it's a symbol, and it can be something like your job can no longer facilitate the amount of people. And the workplace, the financial situation due to inflation or whatever has reached capacity, and the business just collapses within and of itself. And something comes out of that, right? Overwhelm, loss, the symbol of meaning and purpose and stability and structure now has been removed from underneath your feet, and you're faced with chaos. The Saturn through transit, Saturn through the 12th house will bring chaos in different forms, and the degree to which this chaos will take place is dependent, right? You may experience complete chaos in your life when something that once was there and supported and had meaning it just gets taken away, or changes occur without you having that control, and it will feel friggin' scary. It will send you into chaos. The collective will go into chaos. The interesting thing about it is that for those of you that have gone through deep transformational experiences throughout through Pluto through Capricorn, that have come out the other side of things, one of the initial experiences that you went through was a complete realization that the very foundation of structure and safety and security is no longer there. It's no longer there. It's taken from underneath your feet, and you are now in a state of chaos, because that which held structure for you, that which was in whatever form or shape holding you in a safe space, has set you into chaos. I'd argue that while it in that moment will feel completely nuts, and why would anything want to possibly have this effect on you, it is actually a part of what I seem to see as a natural transformational pattern in the times that we live in today. So in order to go through a completion and something to be reborn, something has to go through chaos. And that may mean the loss of something that leads you to a reality where you're like, oh my God, I look back at it and I'm like, now I get it. But at that time I was like, this is nuts. So this process of Saturn through Pisces will collectively show you where people will be showing up at your doorstep or showing up in the wherever and going, there's chaos. And chaos will be there. You will see the image of chaos in the collective. I don't know what it will look like, but it will be present with us. It's like one of the ways that I see Neptune interact, especially with Saturn, is that the ocean, the wave is on the beach, right? And then when Saturn enters Pisces, the wave, the ocean starts to recede like that, and then you start to see all the shells and you start to see all the debris that is underneath the water, and you get this reality check. You're like, whoa. Saturn through Pisces, collective disillusionment, collective realization of the absence of meaning, the collective realization that people have lost faith. And this will happen at capacity. People individually have gone through these experiences, accelerated through 2019, 2020, and 2021. We will now see this happen at a collective scale. And again, what do you do with that? Nothing. You can't do anything with it. It's a natural cycle. We just move through it because there is something new emerging out of that senescent structure. Pluto is now saying we're at the nth degree of this process. We're done with this cycle. So it's time to move on. It's a natural piece. And so embracing that is the wisdom that will come from this. You can't do anything about it. You must be in some way consumed by it, which is a scary thought. I'm not encouraging you to just jump straight into chaos. I'm saying when that cycle, expect to see it, and when it does see it, you will need to be the lighthouse standing firm. That was the whole point. Like, go back to YouTube, my YouTube channel in 2020, and look at the first 2 videos on Saturn entering Capricorn in January. And you will see there that there were very clear messages that are saying, this is a time where you need to learn how to anchor yourself into yourself, because when the planets move forward like that, this will be your ability to feel that you can weather the storm. Saturn entering Pisces is the capacity to weather the storm. And if you are just a small little tugboat in the middle of a gigantic ocean, and you can't read the navigation, or you're going to be, the likelihood of being consumed by this is high, because these, again, like I said, these planetary systems aren't looking down at humanity and saying, hey, you guys, like, I know that this transit's going to be tough, but look, I'll give you a break, right? Yes, there are going to be beautiful things that come of this. People are going to realize deep states of meaning and connection with soul. There are going to be states of huge awakenings that will occur with the Saturn through Pisces. And it will be friggin' amazing to watch, because that will look like the emergence of humanity coming into contact with something deeper within itself that the current structure of reality cannot facilitate. The environment, if the environment is set to only render these types of experiences, think of Pluto through Capricorn saying that environment no longer works anymore. The chaos is, well, how do we now interact with each other when the only thing that we've been conditioned to live is like this? That's the chaos, I mean. How do we live outside of the context of what we've always thought was true? That's the question with Pluto square Jupiter throughout 2023 is, are you comfortable stepping out of your comfort zone and being able to experience yourself in a dimension of yourself in a completely different way with no conditioning? Right? So you will see things like tools, numerology, astrology, etc., human design, stuff like that, become more widely received because it will be the antidote to chaos. It will be like, give me clarity, give me relief, right? Okay. There is a story to this, by the way. It's not just like me just blabbering a whole lot of like bad things about this transit. I'm just kind of trying to keep it real. So part of the Pisces archetype is experiencing the loss of innocence. Okay, so Pisces is this archetype of idealization, and the reason why it's ideal is because it represents the very core essence of that which is the most purest. How many of you have got like strong Neptune like aspects in your chart, and oftentimes struggle with the level of disgust you may have for something, right? It may feel, it's like, oh, I can't be contaminated by that, right? I'm hypersensitive in here, I'm sensitive here. Like the energy within Pisces is, it also reflects, ironically, this duality of complete overwhelm and chaos, and this monstrosity of something that is so confusing and overwhelming that the moment you interact with it, it just feels as if the lines of reality are blurred, and you're now in some Alice in Wonderland environment where you're too small and the environment's too big, or the other way around, right? Or you experience the pure magic of the divine, which for the ego can be incredibly intoxicating, because there's this union, this divine with something, this union with divinity, in a way that lures you into states of consciousness that can also blur the lines of reality. That's why these two pictures I chose on purpose, because this one over here brings you into this divine connection of complete oneness, right? And it's magical. Look at the blue colors here. And then you look at something like this, for instance, you're like, what is that? They're not even the same things, and yet these images are housed within Pisces. So innocence. How many of you have experienced that moment where you see something so incredibly awful that you go, how can God possibly, or how can life, or how can something so malevolent have something exist like this? Like, let's just take, for instance, a baby, right? We all know that if we get a new puppy or a new sort of baby, like a baby goat or something like that, right? And a cat and stuff, we dissolve into this very primal kind of divine child archetype within our consciousness. It drops our defenses. And this innocence prevails, right? And it kind of overrides our instinct for anything horrific, and it awakens something within us, right? And it's like it opens up a divine thing within us, right? So this innocence, this peace. Imagine if something came along like this picture over here and started to then, in some way consume this innocence. What's your reaction? Right? Let's say the baby, right? But somebody comes to it and then puts it in a trash can and leaves it out there. What type of emotions surge into your body? Right? Or you see an animal that's a baby that unfortunately gets killed. Like, there is an incredible fracturing that takes place within us, because we know at the core of something that is that innocent, the disruption of it, the distortion of it, the breaking down of it, it speaks to something so primal within us that we would want to protect it. So this full moon in Virgo, as well as this Saturn through Pisces, the question that you will also be proposed with is, what is the thing in your life, what is the symbol of innocence that you are prepared to keep safe at all costs? What image of overwhelm, what image, if you look at this image here and you imagine that it's on the peripherals of your life, and it's about to start encroaching on this thing that is so innocent, this is what's going to change reality. This is what's going to challenge reality. There will be a binary that will take place in ourselves, emotionally, as well as the collective. We will be in this reality trying to figure out how to navigate this binary between that which is so innocent that must be protected at all costs, and that which is chaotic and overwhelmed and must be avoided. It may be realizing that a relationship that you're in is the image of overwhelm. It's consuming you, and you need to then ask yourself, at what cost is my innocence being destroyed? Like, that's just one silly example, but you will see this binary take place between, what is it that you cannot sacrifice? So that's one question. What are you prepared to not sacrifice? And what will Saturn through Pisces ask you to look at and say, well, actually, I think you need to sacrifice this. In another way, this energy of innocence we will be exposed to things that we don't want to be consumed and are. And this is like life. Like, the reality is there are wars. The reality is that there are events and circumstances that are going to be incredibly difficult to deal with. And so how much resilience do we have to deal with those things, right? This is where this is what will birth within the collective, within people. You will almost find yourself riding this wave in which the you will want something to not taint that innocence. And that can be, it can be a president, it can be your boss, it can be a relationship, it can be an addiction. At the end of the day, Saturn through Pisces is going to help us collectively heal addiction. This is a potential. At the core of whatever addiction is that something that was so pure had to be kept safe. And in place of that, we have the experience of pain and suffering. And we need to keep feeding ourselves to remain innocent. That emotion within us, let's say we experience a childhood trauma, and in order to protect that innocence that cannot be, hurt, broken down, traumatized, it disassociates. So you will see collective disassociation take place here. Saturn will reveal it. Like I said, with the ocean, it will recede. And what you will see is the effects of a society that allow for our innocence to be hidden, to be not spoken about. And so this full moon in Virgo was the capacity to work through where we still maybe have collective shame, where we may hide that innocence in fear of it being reconsumed by the thing that's overwhelming, the monster, whether it be the tyrannic father that you still need to process that trauma through, whether it be the unavailable mother, whether it be the whatever experience you've happened, whatever event that has happened in your life that has caused you to experience suffering in some way, that innocence, this Saturn through Pisces will give us the opportunity to work through that. And part of that process reveal where there will be addictions, as in actions that hurt us more than the actual pain itself, because the avoidance of the pain is in some way, it makes sense to avoid it. So but we're disembodied, we're disassociated from it, right? We don't want that to be tainted. So this is a call to those that are in positions where your own healing process has taken place, and you have developed tools, that you're in a position where you have worked on yourself to a certain degree to be able to at least manage some of these more emotional parts of ourselves that have been wounded, because this will be a time where you will see people need it. The Saturn in Pisces is a collective disillusionment. It's a reality check. It's, oh shit. And those that are unable to deal with the impact of that experience will be seen, right? And the irony of this whole entire conversation is that this transit is pushing towards healing, but healing in a delusional state is pretending that the fantasy you live in is reality. The disassociation, the addiction, whatever that is the truth. Whereas the addressing of the wound is what Saturn wants to do. It wants to say, hey, please, like Neptune through Pisces has been helping us clear out fantasy from reality. And that line is so freaking thin that it's not something you just wake up and go, oh, I can tell the difference between the two. Every single one of us at some points will just be like, whoa, I didn't realize I was actually just buying into something that was completely ideological. But this transit will bring into focus that thin line between what's insanity and what's not. And the funny thing about it is, depending on which side of the coin you're seeing, one could look like complete clarity, and to the other person, that's complete insanity. Like psychosis is a Neptune archetype. Saturn will come into it and say, hey, this is where we're kind of still a bit stuck here with some of these illusions. So the path to healing is a deep, radical transformation of the lies we may tell ourselves in order to remain comfortable. So I think of Pink Floyd's song Comfortably Numb, right? That would be a prime example of Saturn entering Pisces. There will be the capacity to heal addiction, as well as the capacity for that to rise because of the overwhelm versus innocence, right? The people's capacity to not have innocence be tampered by something that is so gigantically overwhelming will promote a need to put more buffers in place in order to deal with the impact. And Saturn through Pisces will show us that. So help us clear through distortion. What you will see become more progressively clear for us with Saturn through Pisces is where distortion has been a mechanism of distraction or a mechanism of non-clarity. That's what I'm saying. Like the process of this full moon in Virgo that's happened with us over here is telling us, hey, we're going to need to sober up. It's like every single person on the planet having to need to check into some form of AA or some form of rehab. And that doesn't mean as in each of us needs to do that individually. A lot of people have already done that right when this was initiated in their individual lives, and they went through a healing journey and realized, whoa, I realized how much stuff I needed to work on, to heal, to clear out my grief, my shame, my guilt, my dysregulation, my trauma, my PTSD, whatever. And now people feel that there's an actual possibility to live in a world where their dreams become real. This is the binary here. People will feel free, will feel as if they're in flow, if they're in reality. They see something magical because they're no longer trapped by the ghosts that haunt them from the past. Some people will actually feel that the first time in their life, they feel aligned with something that's real's real. Psychic drift. I love this image because it just speaks so deeply to the archetype of Pisces and Saturn. Like, look at this image over here. I want you to kind of hold it in your mind, right? Think about when a ship gets wrecked on the ocean, right? So let's go back to the 1800s, 1700s, right? These wooden ships, even the 1600s, right? These wooden ships would be wrecked by the ocean Neptune, right? And overwhelmed, just this chaos of this wave just comes along and boom, and there's a shipwreck. What do you generally tend to see in films, right? There's wood planks all over the place and everything's kind of drifting along, in places, and that's the psychic drift. Saturn through Pisces will reveal where the collective is just drifting. They're just drifting along, kind of just, comfortably numb in that sense. And then others that feel as if they're on a boat that's just like, wow, I'm in the stream over here. And I saw a meme, I have to share it. It said, it was an advert for green energy, and it said, ships now using wind as the energy to make it move. And this person in the comment was like, whoa, that's a revolutionary invention. And the irony of it is that ships in the day where it was made out of wood used sails, the wind energy, right? We just lived in an industrialized world where, the point I'm trying to make here is that people will feel as if the wind is behind their back and they're just being moved in the direction that is so serendipitous, right? That's the power of this thing. It's this capacity to feel as if you are actually moving in a flow, in a current of reality that ironically is actually the monster, right? It's this overwhelm of energy that's just drifting you in a direction, but you're like, whoa, I'm so connected with the soul experience. I feel meaning. And then there'll be the binary where people will experience this shock psychically with Saturn transit through Pisces, where we'll just witness where everybody is just drifting along. We're just drifting along. It's like another day, glazed over, disassociated, reality is too intense, right? It's a yin sign. So there's a kind of like, and that's the piece here. Saturn through Pisces was, we're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. I mean, that's the tagline I would probably say for this entire thing. We're not in Kansas anymore. We will see things. And we may see it as complete alignment with God, goddess, or we may see it as the complete chaos, right? And so the apocalypse is here. The apocalypse is here. Right? This is Saturn through Pisces, the structures, Pluto through at 29 degrees. And there, you just need to walk around the cities, and you will see places that have been consumed, that no longer can survive. And then you'll see other places that will just emerge out of this, that will have life force in it, right? And so this, again, the apocalypse is here. It's not coming. We are in it. It's revelations. This is it. Saturn through Pisces. That's what I meant when I said around the beginning that this transit through Pisces is not just kind of like, oh, it's, Saturn transit through Pisces. No, this is the complete revelation of a collapse of an externalized identity that no longer is true for us. The truth that we once subscribed to will no longer be the truth anymore. And to various forms, we'll experience this. And then in that, oh my God, this is no longer my truth anymore, we will then have to process emotionally the loss of innocence. How could I be so stupid to believe in it? I felt like I was deluded, whatever, right? It's not the purpose of the transits, it's just an effect. Saturn through Pisces is just saying, hey, by the way, like, sorry, but you've been wearing tinted, rose-tinted glasses for a period of time, and it's been fun, you've seen Willy Wonka, but I have to take them back now because the time's up. So that's what the actual brick house looks like. Do you know what I mean? But to other people, they'll be handed some gloves. Not some gloves. They'll be handed some gloves. They'll be handed some goggles that will look as if they're actually penetrating the depths of their own psyche, going, wow, I feel fulfilled. I feel in alignment with something magical. Right? And what that binary will look like is those that have done the emotional work to be able to then come into contact with something more real within inside of themselves. That's the purpose. We're moving into a world in which there is more transparency. That's Pluto and Aquarius. So you will see a kind of like a surge of surveillance occur because, there needs to be transparency between things that are hidden and things that are not, and will be sold as safety and security. But Saturn, Pluto through Aquarius is actually coming into complete realness with each other, being completely free. And so what I mean by this is that you will step into a world and you'll be like, you know what? I've got baggage. I'm okay with that. This is my shadow side. I've dealt with my demons. I'm dealing with my demons. This is who I am. I'm comfortable to talk about it. This thing that there's a core kind of conversation that's going around now in ADHD and autistic or autism communities, and where we talk about masking, right? It's nothing new. It's just kind of identifying that in a society where we have to put on a face to be able to deal with pre-programmed behaviorisms, this is the transit that says, get rid of that. Stop pretending. Be real. Right? So this is bringing into reality the way that we actually are as human beings versus trying to put buffers in place and being afraid of the things that we don't own about ourselves. Right? This is the apocalypse, is the stripping away of the falseness that we hold in our lives because for whatever reason we put it in that place, right? It's just a natural evolution. It's not something that we've done wrong. It's just how it is. But there's no more pretending anymore, right? There's truth. Yeah, and that leads people to authenticity. Like, hello, like Pluto and Aquarius is, do you align with communities that resonate at the core of your being? Well, what happens if you show up in a community and you're completely dishonest and not real? Like, how can other people know who you are? How do you know who you are? How can you even participate in a community-oriented experience in a group associations and be actualized if you're hiding parts of yourself because you're ashamed of it, or you haven't worked on that emotional conflict that you carry within you, right? And so it comes out. And so This is what I'm talking about. Like the transparency will be seen. People will see through your BS and it will become unavailable to hide. So in a way, this transit is helping us as a collective heal the lack of intimacy we have within ourselves, between our own self and the idea of, or the way that we present it. And so to heal that process, whatever that intimacy looks like, right, that core binary that separates us, the falseness that we need to live, and then by doing that, it actually allows us to connect with a fractal of reality when you can navigate and be like, hey, these are the people I actually gel with. These are the people that I'm in sync with. These are the people that can present an idea and create something, and I can participate because I'm real with who I am. I'm honest. I'm in alignment with that which is true. You know? So if you think about this type of work moving forward, it's the capacity to be in true authenticity, and part of that process is healing and recovering from the last 400 years of civilization, right? Breaking down these ideals of, you know, I should be perfect because if I'm not perfect, how am I going to be accepted? Well, it's like, well, start by accepting yourself. I mean, that's been my personal journey throughout my entire life. And like I said, these nodes, literally, the sun and moon opposition literally lands on my squares to the nodes. But that's been difficult. Being who you are leads to rejection from other people. Can you handle that? Saturn through Pisces asks. Okay, so the apocalypse is here, right? The revelation is here. We're now in reality. We can see that our structures and systems no longer serve deeper humanity. We can see through the nonsense. We can see through these things. It's, can people cope with the revelation? That's the piece. Can people cope with the revelation? Okay. So, rediscovering our lost parts. And this is the piece, right? This process, the Saturn through Pisces, will give us the opportunity to rekindle, connect with, allow the spaces within us, the voices within us, to speak up, to allow for us to recover the parts that we've needed to disassociate, disembody, reject, get rid of, because A, it's not accepted, B, we've got rejection patterns. Society's informed us through cultural ideals that this is not acceptable. Saturn through Pisces is going to say, hey, for those of you that are in some weird fantasy trance, I'm sorry, but I'm making cold sober over here, right? The water's about to turn from nice and hot to cold. Are you okay with a little bit of hyperventilation for a bit? And the other piece is people feeling that they're so sober within themselves that they feel this crystal clarity because they are interconnected with something that's deeper, that goes beyond this physical identity, and that is in alignment with something that's, you know, powerful. So the rediscovery of something that has been lost. What magical part of you? All right. So I'm going to touch on something right now that, weirdly enough, could probably take up another hour and a half worth of conversation, but I can't do that. So, light and dark. For those of you that are familiar with Carl Jung, he wrote a book called, well, he not wrote a book, but his collected works. There is a part of his collective works, it's titled Ion. Okay, Ion. And he talks about something really profound in there. He talks about in the context of his writing at the time, he's referring to Christian ideology, and he was talking about the psychic experience of a symbol of Christian values, and what happens when those values or that type of ideology is lived in an unconscious way. And in today's, the way I describe it right now, and what he's referring to, that they're synthesized, but I don't mean in terms of like unconscious, like, I mean more in the sense that there are going to be, there's something deep that's percolating within the collective consciousness, and that there is a binary between light and dark. And in Jung's work, in the collective works of Ion, he goes deep into understanding the binary of the Antichrist. Okay. And so for any of you that are familiar with the way that the psyche interacts with reality, the psyche will use symbolic representations, metaphors. It will then house and project what is in the unconscious into the objects around it in order for it to have it reflected back to itself. So Saturn through Pisces, to me, the conclusion of this process is the revelation of humanity's rejection of its dark side, its pronunciation of the good side as an only, we should only promote the good pieces of ourselves. We should repress the parts of ourselves that are animalistic and shadow orientated. Our demons should be put away. We should shame them. That's bad. Don't acknowledge that process. Only put your best foot forward, and ultimately shame anything that represents anything that could be honoring the parts of us that make us feel uncomfortable. This is ultimately what Jung was talking about. In today's kind of language, right? But at the time, he was referring it to in the sense that there is Adam and Eve, which is Adam represents the part of us that just accepts everything as it is. Do as you're told. Yes, okay, fine, I do as I'm told. And then I pass down my authority to those that are weaker than me by saying you are wrong, I'm right. And then the Eve process is the unactualized feminine in woman, where they are just subordinate, right? It's just like, I'm following the rules. I just take the rules. I take the things. I don't actualize. I don't educate myself. I don't realize I have self-worth, that my perception and intuitive gifts are profound beyond anything, and I have a purpose in society. My job is to just simply be domesticated, right? That's Adam and Eve. These archetypal principles have internalized a sense of authority where it's external, as in other people should direct me, right? And so this revelation, this Saturn through Pisces, Pluto through Capricorn, South Node, North Node, Scorpio, Taurus, etc., Uranus and Taurus, right? All of these symbols right now reflect the collective need to understand this truth, that you cannot suppress this shadow of ourselves. And so most people think Aquarius as this dynamic of, groups and associations and AI, and sort of like, yes, that's true. But Aquarius is also an archetype that naturally squares Scorpio. And you only can see the shadow within yourself through the Aquarius archetype. It has to be objectified, right? So that's why when you have friends, and let's say friends call you on your nonsense, they see it. Like, your friends are the ones that you generally go, hey, that relationship, I think that, you're kind of like doing this, right? Friends are always giving us an objective perspective because they're outside of it. Pluto through Aquarius is not going to be some wonderful time traveling, we're going to find gold on some star system 652. That's part of that science process. So we may at some point arrive at a place where we off-planet systems. But for us as a collective, the thing that will be emotionally real for us is the realization that Pandora's box is going to get opened. And those that have been able to work with the concept of bringing the repressed parts of yourself to the conversation, to acknowledge it, to befriend it, to be present with it, to see that that at the heart of humanity, right? It's, gosh, I can't remember his name right now. I wish, he's the philosopher that was in World War II, and particularly with Stalin. And he wrote about the line that cuts or divides the human heart. Solzhenitsyn. Yes, there we go. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, right? Maybe one of you guys can get that quote and post it in the chat. That would be amazing. But Alexander Solzhenitsyn talks about the line that divides the human heart, right? And that there is a binary of darkness and light there. And we saw that during 2020 and 2021, right? So we will go through a collective rebalancing of the psyche, because with the Pisces age, with the Pisces energy, there needed to be a duality that would emerge from the psyche. There needed to be a binary of light and dark, on and off, left and right. This process with Saturn through Pisces is coming to activate the closure of this process in order for humanity to move forward. Do you understand the gravity of this transit? This is not just a fun, cool little thing. This is the complete awakening of the human psyche that is ready to evolve beyond this 2,000-year process of duality. And that each and every one of us will go through some form of transformation in which the nature of duality must be made whole. And that looks like a disillusionment. It looks like the loss of innocence. It looks like the realization that a large percentage of our collective truths disassociate that which is bad, evil. So the real work with Saturn through Pisces is when you look at somebody and they bring chaos to you, as in they bring the image of overwhelm to you, and your innocence is threatened, do you automatically project the dark side into that process and say, you are evil? That's the truth of this process. How do we see humanity? So there is it, right? The line between good and evil runs not through states or through classes, nor between political parties either, but right through every human heart. Like, if you want to navigate through 2020 with Saturn through Pisces, and you want to understand it at a level that's beyond just the surface fantasy of cool things that are going to happen with this trinket-like glowing rainbowed projection that will be Saturn through Pisces, the core of it will be the realization of what Solzhenitsyn's talking about there. And you will see the distortion. You will see it revealed, that the badness will be there. And can we hold that collectively and individually within ourselves? So we will have beautiful actualizations. People that have integrated the shadow and this dark and this light side will live in freedom from it. It doesn't mean that you won't live in a world where you will see it, but it won't feel as if you are in a tugboat in the middle of an ocean with a 20-foot wave approaching you. It will feel like you are on a very secure, well-anchored, like Titanic ship that is incapable of withstanding that wave, knowing that you understand the mechanics and binary of what we're about to go through. Because you will see the wholeness. You will see the shadow in there. You will see the struggle in humanity. You will see the struggle in humanity. And it will provide natural empathy, not virtual signal empathy, but natural empathy. You will be ignited to participate and facilitate and help those break down the binary that splits the collective psyche into this duality. The culmination of a 2,000-year cycle is right at our doorstep. So my final slide here for today, as I release everybody from this collective trance, chaos and loss of faith will ensue. People will become progressively disillusioned because things will become apparent that cannot be avoided. It cannot be like, you can't look at it and go, wow, that didn't happen. You'll be like, shit, that happened. And then there will be a progressive kind of collapse of internalized things that needed to protect your innocence. You will realize, oh my God, I have been lied to. This is not the truth. There will be chaos. There will be loss of faith. And then eventually at some point, there will be an acceptance of that. And so, yes, there will be collective grief. There will be collective psychic drift. And there will be the potential for a new dream to take place. Hello. You have no idea how long I've been waiting for this to talk about this subject. It's been just it's so powerful. It's just so powerful. So I appreciate any one of you that were sitting through it, and this time we've been live for just over an hour and 30 minutes. So yeah, thank you to those of you that have been sitting with this process. I'll spend another like just a few minutes chatting with you all, and I love how I talk, and then the chat takes like 30 seconds to catch up to what I was saying, right? All right. Yeah. So I'm gonna edit these videos, cut them into pieces so that we can kind of just watch them in more different ways. But yeah, that's my take. I don't proclaim to have the totality of it. It is the way that I choose to see it. My Mars and Venus, like I said, is in Virgo. It's in the 8th house. Pluto is conjunct Mercury in Scorpio. Well, Pluto is in Libra, 29 degrees but my Sun and Saturn's in Scorpio. So I don't see how I could actually see reality a different way. You know what I mean? It's like it has to come in that lens. And I think for those of you that feel that that's something that really strikes home for you, I'm glad. Obviously, this is a lot of content, so I don't expect us all to kind of just take it in and understand it, but come back to it and watch it, right? And then go out there and see it in reality. And as I said, how do you personally navigate this for you? Like, how do you see this? Well, just realize that internally for you, you're just make it smaller. Instead of seeing a society collapse based on ideals and perspectives and perceptions that once had meaning, just see that in your life you may go, and for a lot of you that are probably sitting here, you've gone through this experience in some way, shape, or form, right? You've grieved some things. You're still maybe in processing the loss of innocence, but maybe you are at that place where that psychic drift becomes less about just this random floatingness that you are into something that's like, hey, I actually feel like I have direction. I can actually say, that's where I want to put my energy, because that's how I'm going to live my dream, and it's going to feel like I'm fulfilling something. And that's the binary. Like, this is a time where you actually get to fulfill something meaningful in your life. But it's about being authentic and true. And the way to get to that is by healing the duality. Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. Sweet. I'm glad that this made sense. Sweet. Like it. All right. Fab Just Fab. It's a cool name, by the way. It's about time. I'm glad that you enjoyed that, Kathy. Just kind of, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this here so it doesn't look like I'm kind of staring at the bottom of the screen. I watched that in live stream. It was hilarious, actually. The purpose knocking at door? Absolutely. 100%. Going through a chat. Hey, by the way, I just want to say, Adrian, you rock. Thank you so much for the super chat. Like, I really appreciate it. The super chat, donating $10. That was awesome. That was cool. I really much appreciate that a lot. You rock. As well as you, Nancy. You're awesome. Thank you so much for that. I mean, you guys are all awesome. I just want to do a shout out to Nancy and Adrian. I appreciate your wisdom. I appreciate you sitting and hearing it. Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate it. And Kara as well, Thrivery. Hey, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I am deeply honored and appreciate your sharing of that. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate that. Simon, you need some artwork behind. I know. Saturn in Pisces is going to be like, hey, you see this like detached, aloof Saturn in Aquarius background over here? Saturn Pisces is gonna be like, come on, you gotta make that colorful, right? You gotta make it entrancing. So my suspicion is with Saturn through Pisces that it will come in and say, okay, dude, you need to put some time aside, and you need to go and do that. I have some vision. I know I just got to put that Saturn work in there, but I'm going to do it. Matthew, yeah, at some point, I sensed that I would be doing that. For those, in fact, I'll just share. I know that some of you have actually done the Metamorphosis program with me, but this is the Metamorphosis program is the work that I do. I essentially I work with people on a 3-month basis, and the Metamorphosis program is deeply designed to facilitate transformation in people, and that's the work that I do, right? So I work very closely with people. If that's something that you want to inquire about, I would love to chat to you. If that's not something that's available for you right now, that's cool, but I can still help you in a different way. So I'm going to leave a link in the description of these videos as well as this live stream. I'll even post it there. I'll find it to just like, book a call with me or with Jen or somebody on the team. And, you can just fill out a form so I can get a sense of where you're at in your life right now. And we'll have a conversation. I'll check in with and try to see if I can meet those needs. If you can do the Metamorphosis program, that would be amazing. As I said, it's a 3-month process, and it is intended to help people get to a place within lives so they can process the nature of the changes at the moment in a way that is uniquely your own. I mean, that's the process. So I can send that to you, Matthew. For those of you that are actually astrologers and that you want to make this a profession, I also actually have a mentorship, and I have 1 or 2 spaces that are actually available right now. So if you would like to inquire about, let's have a conversation. Let's see if you're at a place where you can do a mentorship with me. And the idea is to really take you from self-study to out there in the world doing the work in a way that you feel is inspiring, and maybe it becomes a business for yourself. So I know Adrian is on that, and Thrivery as well. So I'll put a link to both of those places over there for those of you that are watching and you're interested in that. Check it out. It's just a call, and I can help you in some way as well. A question: what about someone who has this natal chart, Saturn in Pisces? Well, my sister has that, and I know that in her life right now, I just have to be there for her in some ways, but she's going to go through something that's going to be rough. I know it. I can see it starting to come into her life. I think Saturn through Pisces souls will have Uranus, Neptune square the nodes. So those that are born with Saturn in Pisces 29 years ago, or 56 years ago, we will experience this recent generation, the ones that have got 29 years ago, they're here to witness the collapse of a society, right? And those that are with Saturn and Pisces before, you are, what's that, Pluto through Virgo, if I'm not mistaken. You're here to witness humanity come into contact with their unified fields. Like I said, holistic, right? There's a binary in you. So what that looks like emotionally is, where do you carry something, a demon within you that you're struggling with? People will struggle with addiction, they'll struggle with things, and that will become more prominent with Saturn and Pisces. Saturn will like reveal it, saying, hey, we need to heal this in order to facilitate the process of a coming age. And so yeah, this is a point where the Pluto and Virgos, those of you that are Pluto and Virgo, who here to witness humanity completely become psychically drifted and away from spirit and live in a desperation type of dynamic, or those that will find wholeness within themselves. And Juan, the second Saturn return is a more powerful place. It's an acceptance of yourself, which I think you'll feel. You'll just be like, this is who I really am, and I'm okay with it. You're tempted to what you're tempted with. Hey Jen, you reached out to us the other day. I'm so sorry for those events that you've happened to you. You would be an example of that Saturn through Pisces. Right, the chaos. Gosh, I hope not, Kat. I really, 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 really hope not. I sincerely hope that and pray for you in that sense. That's what I mean. Like in this conversation today, guys, you know, when I said that there's the image of overwhelm, for Kat, that's the image of overwhelm, right? That's something innocent that's potentially, the innocence is, I can't live with the message that this could be Cancer again. Like that's the reality of this conversation, right? For people, it's just that Saturn through Pisces. It's like, can I handle that experience of overwhelm? Can I? It will be easier for me to just let it go. And Kat, every part of my being is sincerely praying for it to not be the case. I really, 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 you don't deserve to have those experiences. You've already gone through it before and once. I mean, my dad passed away from cancer. My granddad passed away from cancer, as well as my grandma, and other people have been really close. So honestly, it's not. I know many of you have experienced that in different ways. So yeah, you're my best friend as well. So I pray that is not the case for you. Sincerely, it's not something that I think anybody should go through. But yeah, okay. My friends, this is where I'm going to end off today. It was an honor and a privilege to sit with you and share this, and for you to have this, you know, to just sit with me and just hear this in this way. I hope it was empowering to you in one way and not scary in another. As I said, as soon as this is all kind of supports, like edited and stuff, I'll post it on the channel. And you know, I'm hoping to every sort of second, third day, maybe put something on a community page, and you guys can interact with me there as well. Okay. So yeah. Okay. And then you can talk to me through as well. I'd like to stay in this kind of connection, right? In this community. All right, everybody, have a fantastic rest of the evening. Yeah, I'm going to drink water. That is 100% what I'm going to do. Bye, everyone.